Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's good to have you here on another edition of the Bow Wow Bill live stream. I did my first ever horse,
Very nice.
so I blow glass. Showing Christine this is she's a horse lover, so this is the first one I did. Here's the second one I did.
Very nice.
And what were you saying? You remember me?
Well, I just remembered that the glass blowing, when you picked that up, it was actually in memory of a very important person who passed that on to you, and that's your way of honoring his memory.
Absolutely. His name
Yeah.
was Jeremiah. Jeremiah went to heaven about 3 years ago, a little over
Mm.
3 years, because that's how long I've been blowing glass.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose, I think in 2006, Jeremiah first taught me how to blow glass. And I just wanted to keep his memory alive, nothing else, no real
Mm-hmm.
expectations. I made money with the dogs, and it was just a nice avenue of expression. And I just want to get lost in the medium and just see
Mm.
where I end up. And it's just been so much fun, especially now that I can make stuff like this.
Yeah. Well,
And I'm
I
so,
mean, I love the marbles as well. I find those really, I don't know, they're very simple, but they're still elegant and colorful and interesting and unique. So I like,
yeah.
hint, hint for the next time we might run into each other,
I'm
you
going to have a
know.
table at the next IACP conference. And we were just at the IACP conference in Colorado Springs.
That's right.
Um, but before we go there, oh shoot, as I drop my
Oh,
horse. But that's what's good about making good quality. It's fine.
oh, good.
It's good. See,
Oh,
it's
good.
a unicorn. I made a unicorn.
Secretly, you had three down there, so you just had to
Yeah,
grab
I
them.
always have one in my pocket, an extra. Oh, we got people joining us already. So we have Valerie. Hey,
Oh,
Valerie. Good to see you.
oh,
Hi,
hey. Oh my
guys.
God, it's
And
Val.
Sue, yep, says hey.
Hey,
Sue is up
Sue.
here, local here, and I have to go to the page, and I'm going to share this to a variety of different. I can't even talk now. You said tongue tied.
I know. See, I passed it on to you.
You cursed. You cursed this. No, cursed me. I have a few
It's
groups
just
that
the
I like to
power.
share these to.
It's the power of suggestion. That's all.
I collect antique glass, and yours is amazing. Thank you, Valerie.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, glass is like magic. People don't know what goes into create it, and it's a lot. It's a lot of intense heat, and you really have to keep your wits about you when you're working with it. And so it's a medium that definitely commands your attention and your focus. But the cool thing about it is because I'm in my I have a training room out here where I have my dogs, and the dogs will be there, and I'll be there working on the glass. And because I'm there, but my attention isn't focused on them, but they still see that it's focused somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They they relax,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
I have
They just
my faithful follower right here relaxing.
is
Yeah.
that's not the Foster though,
Nope.
is it?
It's my tripod.
Oh yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I just
Should I?
met
Can
him.
I show them to you? Just
Of
because.
course. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share. And will you give people a little bio or a little introduction? Tell them a little bit about yourself, um,
Okay.
and anybody who's watching this, go ahead and hit the share button as well. We're going to get into a pretty good conversation, and I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. And
Yeah.
so I'm gonna while you do that, I'm gonna go share it here.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess let's see. How do I connect to Bill? Bow Wow, Bill. We met through Nelson Hodges at the IACP conference last year. And I think, obviously it doesn't take long to figure out that Bill is a very unique person, but also a very unique thinker. And so I think that's really what draws me to speak with you tonight is just that I like that you have your own points of view and that you feel confident in the way that you've decided on your worldview. Like I admire that because I think most people can sometimes just simply adopt a worldview that was kind of just given to them, or it goes relatively unexplored. But I think
Mm,
that yours has been very carefully and precisely aligned with so many important values that really resonates for me. So that's how I know Bill. But how I came to be involved in canine professionals is through Nelson Hodges Canine Human Relationship Institute. So I am the person who, even though the canine professionals are so good at what they do and so excellent at knowing how to communicate with dogs, they may not always be as fluid in their communication with other humans.
mm,
And sometimes we have our own baggage with our human relationships that kind of impact our ability to connect and, just like interact, just so that we're both learning and listening at the same time. So, but yeah, so I have a doctorate in counseling, and I have a private practice here in Plano, Texas, and I work with children, and just started some equine assisted therapy. Have done quite a bit of canine assisted therapy with children, particularly. Is
excellent.
that is that good? We have 3 huskies and a foster husky. Yeah.
Well, and don't you help dog trainers too with burnout and overwhelm and stuff like that?
Yeah, so my doctorate dissertation was on compassion fatigue and caregiver burnout. And the reason it was actually inspired by a mentor of mine, my major professor in my clinical psych program, was one of the first professional psychologists to talk about self care for the professional helper. And
Mm,
oddly enough, apparently he was overwhelmed at a point in his life and he committed suicide. So that led me to sort of dedicate my dissertation to what he introduced me to, which was, how much self-care is important for all of us, in the helping professions. So,
well, and these professions, I was just talking to somebody about this, really are taxing to our bodies and our souls as well. And it's
yeah.
something that um, we literally trade our lives to work with these animals, and it's a 24/7 gig when we're watching and caring for these animals, and it leaves a
Hmm.
lot of energetic residue in that brain. And sometimes it can get overwhelming if you do not have a healthy avenue to deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think because people are so passionate when they
Mm,
are helping animals, that they can easily get sort of emotionally overextended. And the only problem is that, your sphere of influence or your locus of control, like the things that you actually can control in life, are so small. And
yes.
when you take on the emotional responsibility of things that are way outside of your zone, it can obviously be extremely overwhelming. And it just is very important to separate, like we just really talk a lot about the sphere of influence. Like, you really is why it's wise to stay within your sphere of influence and stay focused on that, and do your very best in the ground that is softest, digging in the ground that is softest, and, not necessarily taking on every fight, but the ones, that you have more chance of victory.
Yeah, choosing your battles wisely, as they say.
Yeah, yeah. Even in animal rescue and animal training and all of
Well, I
that.
know that they watch veterinarians pretty closely because it is a pretty well-regulated industry, and in the veterinary trade, they have a disproportionate high rate of suicide at 3.5% more
Hmm.
likely to commit suicide as a veterinarian.
Hmm.
Um, and like you
Yeah,
said, your friend that you're talking about, and
yeah,
it's something that is very important to talk about, and we got a lot of
yeah.
people joining us. We have uh,
Hey,
Doris
Joris.
says, hello, pretty people. Tosh from New Zealand says
Oh,
hello.
nice. That's
Um,
so nice.
and she says, Valerie says, control and organic combined. What's that mean? Words matter. Love you, Christine.
Oh, I love
What,
you. Val is
what is
wonderful.
what is control and organic combined? I wonder what. Could you expand on that, Valerie?
But while Val is going to talk a little bit about that, I'll just say that I think that veterinarians can feel very isolated professionally, if they, especially if they're in private practice, and that also, you know, they have so much that they might have to euthanize because of illness. They are treating creatures that don't necessarily always know that what they're doing is trying to help and care for them, because you know they could easily be perceiving it as harmful. So, man, it's just so hard to stay encouraged. So I strongly, and I do this all the time. I tell my support persons, like the people who are close to me and my support team, I tell them if I need encouragement. I simply say, like, I need a pep talk. I need you to boost me up. I need some encouragement. You know, those, just knowing that you can simply ask for that if that's what you need, and that you
Mm.
know that those people are simply going to offer that to you in spades without holding back. I think that just ask for that if you need it.
Yeah, no matter how foreign that feels, and it might feel foreign, you
Does
know,
it?
and I've had to learn, yeah, oh, Gerald, does it? It
I have
might
no
feel foreign, I don't know, you
I have
know.
no shame telling people when I need some positive feedback.
Yeah. Well, some people do, Doc. You know, and it's basically, you know, it's and especially men. You know, I think men, we got this stoic attitude where we
That's
do
true.
not talk about this stuff. And as somebody personally who has seen the value in getting some counseling, and just like people are hiring us and taking out their wallet and taking out some big bucks to pay us to help them with their life because their dog is kind of out of control,
Mm-hmm.
there's professionals out there that do what we do, except in that brain, and except you know, in the way that people are brought up, and the latent behaviors that might pop up later on in life, or depression, anxiety. There's so many things that, you know, become bigger than you know,
Yeah.
and that's when you can call in people that are professionals at dealing with this stuff to kind of help you get a handle on it, and also make
Mm-hmm.
you feel better about the situation because you can talk about it.
Yeah, and you know, the one of the things that we briefly discussed the other day when we were just brainstorming was the concept of emotional reasoning as a cognitive distortion. So sometimes our brain hangs on to things that are not necessarily true, and so it's really important that if you know that you're on the edge of burnout, or if you know that you are already there, that you will probably also be suffering from emotional reasoning. And that's a cognitive distortion. And that is basically saying, Janet! It's basically saying, if I feel this way, it
Hi,
must be
Steve.
true. If I
Yeah.
feel this way, it must be true. So if I feel like I'm failing at my work, at my career, if I feel like I'm letting my patients down, if I feel, then it must be true. So that is the most important first step, is just noticing if those are the things that are coming up for you in your internal dialogue. Just take note of that, because there's absolutely nothing you can do if you don't notice that piece first, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And just
to get
observe it,
right.
not judge it, not get lost
Yep.
in the rabbit hole of what that is. Just kind of be like, okay, cool, this is interesting. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And just absolutely observe, because the very next thing that could happen is if you do choose to judge that emotionally, you're just like, oh, well, I'm so silly for thinking this way. Or, um, I'm, basically just sort of like maybe even berating yourself for having that is not helpful either, because then you're
Mm.
kind of doing, as you know, like a yogi would say, that's a himsa, so you'd be harming yourself. So it's important that you're not harming your own self, whether it's through thought or emotion or physiologically, any of that stuff.
Well, try to take the practice of that observer role. You know, basically, if you've ever been on an airplane and looked down on the ground, and I don't know why the hell there's so many circles and squares, man. I'm like, it's so perfect. You know how they're
Actually,
flying
I
over
found that
them. You
out.
know.
I found out one of the answers to that, the
Okay.
circles,
Well, it's
because when they're
irrigation because
irrigating,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the thing rolls around there, but there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
That's an international sign for
That's right.
irrigation. But when you're up in that plane, just observing the ground below, I mean, you can't really have an effect on that ground because you're up in that plane, right? And so
Uh-huh.
that's it. It's like pretend like you've taken yourself from the situation and just take a 30,000-foot view and look around and just kind of look at what is. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
without becoming emotionally invested in that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think that these emotions we can become addicted to these emotions. And,
Mm.
and that's another aspect of that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I can certainly agree with that. I mean the way that it pops up for me when I hear you say that is like in my graduate training, we were on such high alert for such a long time that I got really used to being adrenalized.
Mm,
And it was really a driving force, and it's really helpful in that time period, because I really did have a lot of demands. So being adrenalized during that time was adaptive. But when that time was over, and I was still anticipating that I had higher demands than were actually real, it kind of would, if I didn't have enough to do, it would kind of turn into anxiety, like
mm.
anticipatory anxiety, or it just had a yucky feeling, like there was something that I wasn't doing that I should be doing. So that, I think that was the feeling that I had to really work through after grad school.
I think
Yeah.
people have that overall as a
You think so?
society. Yeah, well,
Mm-hmm.
just because they don't, and we talk about that self-care, but I think that a lot of people need permission for that. And just when they're
Yes.
doing nothing and when they feel worthless or they feel like uh, they should be doing something instead of
Yes.
just loving on themselves. And so
Yes.
let's speak on that a little bit.
So here's the reason. Okay, here's what I think. I mean, I'm not saying that this is the reason for everyone, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about this.
Okay.
Okay, so we we have seen a huge shift from leisure to entertainment. It used to be you could spend your free time in leisure, which is like sitting on the beach doing nothing, or basically sitting in the grass, and like we were kids, we would lay on our backs and watch the clouds, and we could do that for a long time. So that's
Absolutely.
leisure. That's leisure. And our culture has stopped valuing leisure over entertainment. And so I think it's a
Well,
lost art.
entertainment has crept into leisure because instead of
Right.
staring up at those clouds, you're staring up at that screen
Right. So if
or
you,
down at.
like, it used to be like if you would open the newspaper, you would see a column that said leisure slash entertainment. But I think over time it was like, man, we're just much more addicted to the entertainment piece. And then even then from entertainment is like amusement, So I've thought about this a lot, because I see children and they are, products of our culture these days. And
Yeah.
so they really struggle, and they just don't have leisure. They don't have any leisure time. Every single minute is accounted for the most part. It must be so hard to be a kid right now. I can't imagine. So those are my
You know,
thoughts.
that's weird because I see that with the dogs, them not having the
Oh.
ability to just relax.
Uh-huh.
They almost have this anticipatory mindset that
Mm.
manifests itself in anxiety and reactivity. Um, and because they're always engaged, always they're not just left alone and just taught to just be. You know
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
just be is very important.
it is. I agree. We talk a lot about so I train counselors. I have supervised interns that are developing
Johnny,
their practice. Oh, thanks, John. But so we do. It's the being versus the doing, and that it's really important to have a nice balance between the being and the doing.
same for dogs. Billy just
Mm,
stole my exact thought.
yeah,
Dang right I did.
yeah.
What are you gonna do about it? No, just kidding. That's Johnny's right around the corner here.
I feel
But we
like,
see it.
okay. I thought I had met John before. That seems like
I
a
don't know if
familiar.
you have.
Okay.
I don't know if he was at that ACP that you were at. The dogs are and the kids. Too much unrealistic expectations, and I mean, I just see any time that the kids are given a moment of freedom, so called, they're handed an electronic device, and they're
Mm-hmm.
buried in it. They're really buried in it, you know.
Yeah, I think it's very important to be okay with boredom. I think it's really important. I think it's a very
Be
important.
okay with boredom.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, the dogs are.
The dogs are like, what? What? This is a fantastic moment for me. Thoughts with you. I'll share my thoughts with you, Bill Church. Anytime, buddy.
Yeah, I
It's
think
so nice
earlier
to see.
you said that he stole them. Now you're saying you will share.
Yeah, there you go. So, so nice to see two beautiful people. And now that we have your face on here, we got three beautiful people on screen. So there we go. I mean, be okay with boredom.
Oh yeah, it's
Be
important to
okay with boredom.
practice. It's important to practice. So I have a foster puppy and he's going bonkers over here. Sorry
Oh yeah,
about
don't
that.
worry about it.
He's good. He's good. He's practicing leisure. He's
Oh,
playing.
listen carefully. Now my wife is chiming in here. Listen carefully, Billy.
Oh,
Be okay with boredom.
yeah.
Well, do you know what I do? Is I anytime that I have, I go out on that torch and I work on this glass. You know, and
Uh-huh.
that's what I kind of manifest. What do you think about that? About using that time to invest in other talents, tasks, and hobbies, or should it be nothing?
I would call that meditative for you. And so I
It
believe
totally
that
is.
there's definitely a meditative quality, but I wouldn't call it boredom because
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
creating. There is an end result. I think the difference between that and boredom is that there's absolutely no,
Don't
no,
encourage her, dude.
yeah, there's no end results when you're practicing boredom. Maybe just give yourself like 15 minutes and like set aside 15 minutes and try to practice what it feels like to be bored or just to be simply like, I don't know if maybe it's a walk. I don't know how it starts. These guys are going bonkers over here.
Oh, don't
So
even worry
they're
about it.
showing off. They're
Yeah, they're
showing
showing
off.
off. Like they want to get on TV.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like when you're doing this, that means no electronics. You know, I
Yes.
don't think I have any electronics on me, but do you know what's so weird is that I'll tap my pocket and where my phone is usually all the time. You know, you have all these
Mm-hmm.
behaviors, and I mean, the electronics bring us so many more.
Okay, guys. All right, hold on one second. Like, uh, okay, that's enough. Okay.
I mean, they bring us so much, so many more capabilities as far as what we can do, and we are communicating on it right now. And you guys are watching it.
Okay, hold on one second.
Okay.
See, he's the one that says everybody get it under control. All right, you need to stop. All right, hold on. My husband is not helping. Time out.
Laura says hi.
Hey, you cannot let them do this. You take them. Okay.
That's so funny.
He's just watching it happen. Laura!
Laura says, "Hey, hi, Christine."
Janet, Laura, Val, they have
Yeah,
been through my class at the CHRI and all of Nelson's classes. And so it's a very special bond that we all share. It's really
Canine
sweet.
Human Research Institute.
Relationship, Bill.
Oh,
Relationship Institute.
my bad.
Yeah.
Canine
Yeah.
Human. I got yoga
Relationship.
brain, man. I just went to hot yoga. Like literally, I walked in the house and sat down.
That's
Um,
true. You are the better person.
yes,
You
so
really
don't
are.
forget that. I appreciate volunteering for the ambulance because we have 8 hours of boredom out of a 12-hour shift. It's my get to do nothing time,
Wow.
self care. You know,
Wow.
and so yeah, let's talk about a little bit more about this practicing boredom.
Uh-huh.
And people, I want you to literally take this and practice it and you know, apply it to your life, because she says that there's no outcome. I mean, there's no end result in the outcome, but I would have to disagree. I think that in the brain, you know, these neural connections
Yes.
are going to be making the connections that are going to be in a more calm, unified
Yeah.
way.
I would say
You
it's not,
are hot yoga. You are hot yoga, Bill Church. Dear God, don't tell him that.
I, I would
Nice.
say, I would say that it's not necessarily like goal directed. But you will
Yeah,
have benefits, but that it's not like a goal
yeah.
directed. So, and I
Focus.
don't know how to practice it other than to, um,
Just be.
I honestly, I don't really know how to. I mean, I think especially people with dogs, that's one of the best reasons to practice being bored is to spend time with in the natural environment with your dog or your horse or whoever. Like that is the perfect partner. Perfect partner. Okay,
Well,
he's
and that's
back.
where I heard him. When Nelson, so I've had a couple seminars with Nelson here at the property, and I recommend if you're a professional or if you're somebody passionate about animals to go to one of Nelson's seminars. And the Canine Human Relationship Institute
That's right.
is um, that's out of Dallas Fort Worth area, right?
Dallas, yeah.
Dallas area, and
That's right.
you can actually go there and hands-on learn some of the techniques
That's
that
right.
Christine is talking about.
That's right. Come to Dallas so we can teach you boredom. That will be the best
Yeah,
sales pitch ever.
well, what I was getting to was one of the exercises that was actually very surprising. Actually, it's surprising, but it was hilarious too, because so the exercise is called "Follow Your Dog," and when you follow your dog, like literally, you follow your dog. You
Hmm.
let the dog lead you. It sounds silly, but it's so fun. Um, there's Cheryl in the house.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for
Here, I gotta
the.
put this on here
She
too.
just put the website on there too. That was very
Yep.
wise,
See.
Cheryl.
Yep.
Cheryl is
See.
also a associate at the Institute. Okay.
Institute.
This is a foster
DonLizWarren.com.
puppy.
So I'm going to
So,
put this up here. Make sure that website's right, but I'm going to put it up there too.
uh-huh.
Um, and one of the things that you do is some people are laying down with their dog, and just the dog is just walking to the middle of the field and laying down and taking a nap. And
Actually, you know what? This is pretty weird, but I actually tried to practice taking a nap with my horse today. There's something that you can. There's a. It's like I don't know if you call it a technique, but it's called rock the baby, and basically you just stand and I breathe into his nostrils and I just kind of rock back and forth and his eyelids will begin to droop and his head will begin to lower and he just gets more and more relaxed. Yeah, so we actually did that today for like 50. No, I'm not doing it right now. Rock.
yeah, don't, because I get hypnotized.
Yeah. Yeah, so we practiced taking a nap with my rescue horse today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good because it's I don't know, there's something about it's very much about being in the immediate moment. It's being in the now. And that's
Mm.
really really a helpful goal. That's the goal is like being in the now. Yeah.
I tell people this all the time, but why is that the goal?
I guess because there's the past and there's the future. And we as humans, we tend to bounce back and forth. But the problem is that when we're there, we're actually usually not in the present, which is when that's the moment when you actually do have agency. You have agency over the present moment, and that's it. You can't impact the future. It hasn't happened, and the past is already done. So all of your power and your agency happens in the present moment, whether that's to be helpful or hurtful. And so I think what's interesting also about what this one lady that I've been learning from, her name is Ingela Larson Smith, and she says that when we are in the past or the future in our mind and not in the present, we are leaving our horse or our dog or our partner alone. We are leaving them alone because all they know, especially if it's a horse or a dog, all they know is the now. And so when we depart from that moment, we are sort of abandoning the union that we have in that relationship. And that's what she says, and I
I like
believe
it.
I believe that is true.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
metaphysical departure because physically our bodies might be there, but we're living
Yep.
in the past. And I mean, we have Eckhart Tolle who talks about the
Mm-hmm.
power of now, and there's a book called The Power of Now. Um, and he even goes further about the emotional intelligence of like, the depression, regret, guilt lies in the past. We have to reflect back
Oh,
to
uh-huh.
behaviors that we wish we didn't do, and
Oh,
fear, anxiety lies in the future when we project ourselves
oh
into the
yeah.
future of coming events and things that. And so he says, in the now, none of that is present. Is just our authentic, true selves,
Mm,
and that the brain doesn't kind of mess that up. Because we got to remember that, the brain, we have an amygdala, which is our pharmaceutical company, right? And that produces those polypeptides that we call doubts, fears, anxieties, depression, all that stuff. And just like, these synthetic drugs and hormones that bind to these receptor sites, the difference is with our own polypeptides is that they're neutralized right away and processed by the liver, where the synthetic stuff sticks around, right?
mm,
And so it's a lot, and to be mindful of that process too, and know
mm,
that process, the process of the mind, is a homeostasis process that we were talking about the 98.6 degrees
mm-hmm.
temperature, and then all of our different functions. The technological, biological marvel that is our body, our water suit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to know that, oh my goodness, look who look who joined the party. and,
That
and
was a
Nelson,
big mistake. You
yeah,
should never
and,
have joined.
yeah, and I'll send Nelson a little link to the show too if he wants to pop in here. He can join us
Please
as
don't
well.
do that.
I'm going to. But anyway,
No.
so we have all the, the digestive, the circulatory, the respiratory, the neuro systems in our bodies that are always functioning, and thank God, even our what do they call the gut, the second brain, or the
Mhm.
enteric
Enteric
nerve,
nervous system.
yeah, the enteric nervous system, right? And
Yeah.
and thank God I'm not aware of all the sphincters and stuff that are closing as I'm talking to you.
Or all the
Yeah.
bacteria that is
Or yeah,
doing a number
chomping
on
away.
you. Oh yeah.
Well, and the bacteria
You are
is
more
amazing.
bacteria than you are human.
Yeah, isn't that we are a symbiotic relationship with this
That's right.
trillions of a sack of
That's
trillions of
right.
cells.
That's why I try to get
But
Nelson to drink some probiotics, but he says that if he wanted to do that, he would just drink out of the swampy pond in his property, and he
Nelson's so
refuses.
hardcore.
I know
He's so
he refuses. He
He probably goes
refuses.
to that swampy pond and drinks out of it, and then the bacteria is like, yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And,
it's like we changed our mind.
we don't want that. Sphincter says, what? Whatever. No. So okay. So let me stay on. So we have the autonomic function of the brain, but then we also have that neuro. Remember the neural function, the comfort zone of the brain, right? And
Okay.
just like you were talking about during your clinicals, that your the nerves that fire together start to wire together, and the neural
Mm,
reconstruction process is 28 to 45 days,
mm,
right? And
okay.
so that's that power of habit. And
Mm-hmm.
what they did was they took these in NASA back in the 50s, before we went to the moon, they were doing some studies with these astronauts, and they took these inverted lenses and they put them on these astronauts, and they basically said, you guys are going to see the world upside down until the brain writes that image, and we want
Oh
to
wow.
record how long that is. And in about 27 to 45 days on average, that brain readjusts that image. That neural regrowth has taken hold, and started become more of a, from a dirt road to more of an ingrained thoroughway, or started
Uh-huh.
a highway, freeway, all that stuff based on experience, right?
Yeah.
And so that comfort zone is based on experience, but knowing that, um, the awareness that we have of that comfort zone, of these doubts, fears, anxieties, and the functions of the brain, that's where the question becomes, is like, what is that awareness, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
Yeah.
and that's
So,
what I think is you and me, the
yeah.
essence.
So, one of the things that we talk about at the Institute is principles by she's an educator called Becky Bailey. And one of her principles is what you focus on, you get more of. Yes, I know this about, huge
I
fan of
got
kombucha.
it's killing me.
It's so gross. Oh, by the way, if you want to hear a little bit about Nelson's property, he had a little
Vegas.
septic issue. His septic tank kind of started to bubble over, and
Nice.
my dog happened to be on the property that day. And I turn
Nice.
around, and he's like, Nelson does not stop my dog, and he's just chowing down on toilet paper that has been used. Toilet paper. So I just
Is this
think,
the Foster
no, this
or is
is
this
my
the tripod?
tripod. Yeah, this is my
What?
this is my
At
beautiful
two?
baby.
At two?
My beautiful baby. He let him eat shit. He genuinely let
Nelson,
that happen. He let it happen.
I
It's like,
got your kombucha right here. I don't know where this
like
conversation has
so
gone, but it's what,
disgusting.
whatever.
Then I
Yeah,
said, give him
dogs,
a big
they love that
kiss.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. It's been
Yeah.
a while since you kissed them after that. All
So
right.
yeah, so what she says is what you focus on you get more of. And so that actually leads us to create what is called confirmation bias. So
Okay.
if we are perceiving something and we begin to focus on that, so say let's just say for example that it's a dog's misbehavior. And if we are perceiving misbehavior, especially if we're taking it personally, because heaven forbid that a dog would misbehave, with somebody who should have so much more expertise. But we focus on the misbehavior and then we become more sensitized to it. And then we pick it up more and more in our environment. So that's
Mm,
confirmation bias. We are seeing more of what it is that we're looking for, whether it's actually more present or not. Now we've become more sensitive to it because we have learned to focus on it. So that speaks to the process of building neural pathways. Is that it literally does build neural pathways to focus on things. And so that's why they say that meditation is so helpful in learning how to stay calm and composed, because you're strengthening the neural pathways so that it will be easier and easier and easier for you to return to calm once something upsets you emotionally.
mm.
Yeah. So what you focus on, you get more of.
Well, and the thing is that this is another autonomic function of the brain. Even it's called the reticular activator, right? And so, whenever a good example of this is, say, you buy a brand new car, or you have your old car, your brain automatically notices the same car that you're driving, other people are driving, will pick up right away on it because it's tuned into that. That's your car, and so you'll be driving along. Say you're driving a Volkswagen Bug, a blue one. You're going to notice all the Volkswagen Bugs for sure, but you're especially going to notice all the blue ones,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Here you
So that's like
go.
to
There he is.
me. What's
This
going
is
on here?
he's up for adoption, this guy right here.
Yeah, look at him. Texas area peeps. I'm sure he can travel too. But
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Is the lock
Yeah.
like when you drive a specific car or truck? Now I see Jeeps everywhere. Where you not have noticed them before. Thanks, John. That's exactly what I just said. We are mentally connected. I know, dude. What the heck? I wasn't even looking at the video, too. Get out of my brain, John. My
Well,
gosh. But that's it.
yeah.
And then so that's a reticular activator. And then we have the psychocybernetic mechanism. And the psychocybernetic mechanisms like autopilot, you know.
These are made up words. I'm convinced.
I wish, man. That'd be so bad. Just going on it. Bill Church mental, yes. Or John Sparks mental, yes. So yeah, I mean what were you saying?
I don't know, but I think you're using a lot of fake words, a lot of
You
made
don't.
up.
You never heard of this stuff?
You know,
Psychocybernetic mechanism.
if I did, I purged it to make room for something new. Like I must have made room for new words. Because I think, I mean, some of it, I've not heard of the, yeah, reticular
Servo mechanisms. Um, Psychocybernetics. It was a book. So
psychocybernetics. Okay.
yeah. And the servo mechanisms are constructed that they automatically steer their way to a goal, target, or answer. So conformist bias. Whenever we conceive of the human brain and nervous system as a form of servo mechanism operating with the cybernetic principles, we gain new insight into why and wherefore of human behavior. That's
Okay.
what
A man wrote that. A man wrote that. I'm
Like,
guessing.
let me see. Psycho Cybernet. Maxwell Waltz.
That's right. That's right. See,
Yes. Yeah.
Maxwell, he's trying to sound smart. I'm just saying.
Let me see.
It's
Uh,
good. It's good. I'll
so,
read it.
yeah, check it out. So let's see here. I got some cybernetic mechanisms for you right now. What the heck, man? And so
John
confirmation
is
bias, especially when you're looking for, I mean, you're looking for it.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, and that happens, I think, and unfortunately, it happens a lot in our culture. And it would be really helpful if people would be more and more aware of their own confirmation bias. Because the problem I think that has unfolded, and of course, I'm talking more about people and human interactions than anything else, but I think when we get focused on the things that we don't like, so here's a little psych lesson for you. So we typically have like these, you know how they've been using this word triggered a lot lately in the media and trigger warning and all that.
Yeah.
So I guess what that means is something happens that emotionally launches you into more of a state of fight or flight. So they call it trigger. I call it activated. I like to say the word activated. So when we become activated, we're responding out of fight or flight, which is typically not a very helpful. It's definitely good for your survival, but it's not helpful for relationship building and connecting. It's very disconnecting to try to be in relationship while two people are in fight or flight, because it's all about somebody being more powerful or powerless. Or so so basically, when we have a whole lot of confirmation bias, especially when it's quite sensitive to whatever activates us or triggers us, then we immediately kind of have license to feel outraged, right? An outrage. And so what good responses really come from outrage? And I can tell you, I don't think very many productive responses come from a place of outrage. My belief is that real, healthy, healing actions truly come from compassion. Not to say that we should suppress feelings of outrage. All feelings are acceptable, all behaviors are not. But when we allow ourselves to operate from a place of outrage, I think we can anticipate it's typically harmful,
Mm.
because one of the things that happens is if we are acting from outrage, it's typically that we feel hurt about something. And so if you're operating from a place of hurt, you're more likely to do something hurtful to another being, right? So if your dog misbehaves, you take it personally, and you think that they want to, evoke this frustration in you because it's a power struggle and you feel hurt and offended by that. And so you might want them to pay, and so they might be punished. And I think that if we are coming from a place of love and composure, that our answer would be probably different to the same question, which is, calm, We're going to model emotional regulation, like you said earlier, about taking the viewpoint of the observer. Um, and then Judith
Yeah.
says she gets it. So,
Well, and
yeah.
I think a lot more women. What do you think about that versus men get this? Because I think that men tend to sometimes over logic approach, or try to think things through without really exploring those emotions, and I mean, in the empathy and the
Hmm.
intuition and all that stuff.
Well,
What do you?
yeah. So basically, I think if you're going to operate from a place of compassion, it inherently requires you to be vulnerable. And
Yes.
so I think that ultimately it's more difficult. Maybe it's cultural, maybe it's genetic. I don't necessarily know. I mean, if you're the provider, if you're the protector, then yeah, becoming vulnerable is probably not your comfort, the area of comfort. You really It's very important to be in a safe and trusting relationship so that you really know that you are free to be vulnerable. But to use compassion, yeah, I think we do have to agree to some extent to be in a place of vulnerability.
Here's what Nelson says.
See, that's not what I teach. That's not what we stand
Nelson needs
for.
to be more vulnerable.
Oh, he will be. He will. Next time I see him, we're going to make sure that this gets taken care of.
Well, thought out responses based on logic are much more effective than relying on primal responses. Sometimes. I mean, sometimes, those primal responses are there. I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes righteous anger can be a gift, especially if that primal response is to something that is wrong, right? And something that,
Yeah.
I don't.
All feelings are acceptable. It absolutely is so important that the first fundamental agreement is, are the feelings that we have, are they acceptable? And if the answer is no, and you choose to blunt your negative emotions, then by default you are blunting your positive ones as well. So
Mm,
if you choose to have positive emotions, then it goes without saying that being at least open to feeling the negative ones, you can survive it. And a lot of times some people would say that, treatment resistant depression. I mean, if the depression is resistant, it might be because the person is resisting the depression. Like, what if we just allowed ourselves to feel sad? Like, if we just gave ourselves
mm,
100% permission to completely feel sad for at least 2 weeks straight and listen to all the Morrissey records you have, and and then maybe you can be done with it in some cases, not all, but
um,
there is that cultural agreement that negative emotions we should not have to have them, and we should not feel suffering. So those are things that if we don't challenge those beliefs and those ideas, it's hard to move forward. It's hard to move forward.
I'm dealing with this now. My friend just died,
Mm,
and it was just like that's it. Is I have a professional that I see. I'm actually seeing her tomorrow, where we
mm-hmm.
just talk about this stuff. And sometimes she's like, "Dude, I'm gonna just get down in that hole with you,"
Yep.
and that's it. We're gonna sit. She says sometimes we need to sit with this
Yep.
and do
Yep.
nothing else but just sit with it. And that to
Mm-hmm.
me is profound,
Mm-hmm.
because we feel like we need to fix it. We feel like we need to move on. And
Mm-hmm.
in doing so, this is going to be a gremlin that's going to pop up later on,
Mm-hmm.
or you're not going to get closure. It's going to leave energetic residue that's going to affect
Mm-hmm.
different areas of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And in
I
and
mean, what
in your
else?
relationships, because invariably, if you tell yourself that your own negative emotions are not appropriate and not acceptable, you're also saying that to other humans.
Huh.
You're by default, you're also rejecting their expression of a negative emotion or their experience. So you'll just generally be less tolerant of a negative emotional expression from others if you reject that in yourself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, and the thing is too is that I see this too, and I know that a lot of dog professionals see this, the emotional inability to see a logical truth. Does that make
Mm.
sense? Or the
Well,
emotional influence to not see a or a truth that's right in front of our face, like especially with the relationship with the dog, you know.
hmm
And I'm like, and they're incapable of seeing what is in front of them, and like, you know, the dog bit somebody, and they're like, they'll sugarcoat it, or they'll straight up
hmm
deny it, or you know, they're incapable of coming to terms with you know, how serious this relationship with the dog and them have gotten into a
hmm
liability situation. And I find it's interesting because I see it over and over again. It almost
hmm
blinds and I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm living in the twilight zone.
Well, I would say that what it sounds like you're describing is that if a person feels
Hey, Christopher.
incapable, if a person feels incapable of maybe preventing that from happening again, in terms of like hurting someone, or then they may have difficulty accepting reality as it is. And so therefore they might project something else onto the dog that really comes from them. So we talk a little bit about, at the Institute, we talk a little bit about the human projection that we put on animals, and that it's not
Mhm.
always, it's certainly more of an emotion. It's more of an emotional reward for the human than the dog doesn't need. The dog doesn't need a projection,
No, no, the dog just needs people
believe in its
to
resilience. Believe in
yeah,
its
well,
resilience.
and to
Yeah.
look at the results that are right in front of their face, you know, and look at this dog
Mhm.
as proof of, and also just be with that dog and watch the dog relax, and to relax with that dog
Mhm.
um, as well, and to be okay with
Yeah.
being bored. They're okay with being bored, man. They're
Yes. And
freaking,
so,
you know,
once again, this is a cultural thing. We live in a culture that is obsessed with a concept called fun morality, meaning like if
fun
you're not.
morality.
Yeah, fun morality. If you're not having fun as an American, there's something wrong with you. And so with dogs, we've transferred that onto them too. And so every time they see a person, it's like a birthday party. Like, oh my God, look at, you're so cute. So when people come to our house, we say, please ignore our dogs for at
Yeah, yeah.
least 5 or 10 minutes, because I don't want them to be adrenalized the moment a new person comes into their presence. So I think just that grown-ups or parents have, kind of been conditioned to think that their children need to be entertained and feel happy and have fun. And I think maybe it's the same for dog owners.
Well, and I
Well,
think, you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is? Gary V.
no.
Well,
Mm-mm.
he's very popular. He's like
Oh,
this. He took this wine business that his family had and turned it into this $1 million. Now he does like motivational speaking, and
wow.
he wants to own the New York Jets someday. And he's got just
Okay.
this huge personality, and he was speaking out in front of these people one day, and he swears a lot, you know. And so he was like, uh, somebody asked him, I don't know how he got the question, but the dog subject came up, and he says, "You guys are gonna hate me. I know some people are gonna hate me, but I effing hate dogs." And he says this, and I'm just like, I kind of tuned into him, and he's like, "Let me tell you why." He's like, "Let me tell you why I'm not a fan of dogs." F bomb guy, F bomb Gary. Yeah, he's like, "Let me tell you why I'm not a fan of dogs, because people give away their own potential way too many times to these animals, or they'll put themselves like they'll make these animals almost like an emotional dumping ground before they've worked on themselves." I don't know exactly how he said it, but I got it, you know, because I see,
Mm-hmm.
you know, these people like trying to become a rescuer, or something before they've rescued themselves, or they've done the work on themselves to, you know. And a
Mm.
lot of times it's a basket. I mean, it's an anxiety basket case. I don't know how to put it. Am I saying things? Am I making sense?
I think it makes sense. I would probably talk to him about the word that he was using to describe his experience, because it's obviously not the dog's fault to. So I don't.
Right. No, no, no. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not the dog's fault, but that's what he sees over and over, and
So
he's
does he
putting it on
hate
the dog.
dogs, or does he hate the way we love our dogs?
He
You
hates the
know?
way we love our dogs and the
Okay.
potential that people give away to that animal instead of, um, instead of realizing that first, and
Mm-hmm.
then enhancing that animal's life by, living your own, um, living your own path and truth and just what you're here for, I guess.
Yeah. I would say they hide it behind. I think they hide their potential from themselves in favor of looking at the animal. I wouldn't say they give it away. The animal doesn't take anything from it. He's
Well,
like, no thanks.
but the emotional response that the animal gives these people,
Oh, okay. Does the animal
right?
give a person a emotional response though?
I think so. I mean, sometimes.
I
What do
mean,
you
with
think?
people, we say that no one can make you feel anything. That
Right,
your
right.
feelings come from within yourself, and that you
Yeah.
either give yourself permission or give that situation or that person the permission or not. That 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 ultimately, if you take responsibility for your feelings, that you are choosing what you feel. I mean, it's very hard. Like it's not easy to try to live by that. I mean, because we certainly, um,
People more fascinating than animals, he says.
yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's a great way to grab people's attention and educate them. Hating dogs work for you, Bill, I guess. Yeah, he's a marketer. I mean, we're talking about him right now too
Yeah.
on this live stream too. And a lot of people are in that rescue for that reason. And I've seen people get pretty drunk with the power, the little
Mm,
perceived power that they have with these rescues. And I've seen dogs get messed up a little bit too with.
yeah. I mean,
You know,
in my view and working with people, I think it all comes. A lot of it, maybe not all, but a lot of it comes back down to the human's ability to emotionally regulate.
topic is basically we're talking about what are we talking about? I mean, we're talking about a lot of stuff, but we're talking about overwhelm in the service care industry for professionals. We discussed about the veterinary suicide rate was 3.5 times more, and the inability to deal with overwhelm. Christopher has a very successful training company as well. And
Hmm. And
do
it's
you know who
okay for you to
Christopher
feel
is?
lost. It's okay to feel lost. Yeah, we don't need to fix that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's
okay.
okay.
And
Yeah.
you can even choose to feel bored.
Well, and that's it. So then we talk about the entertainment taking over leisure
Yep.
or
Yeah.
encroaching on that, where we
Yeah,
would
well,
just lay
leisure
up.
is a yeah, it would be nice if we returned our value back to leisure time, which is like not necessarily goal directed, not entertainment. We're not that the goal of it is to be unproductive, I guess. Maybe, you know.
I like it.
I think it's
Well,
very important to be okay to be unproductive. Of course, it's a practice. It's not like I know how to do it, but if you, I mean, it's just something that I think we practice if we want to. Now, it's easier said than done, of course.
well, especially when we have all these devices. This is a very West Coast conversation.
What are you talking about? What does that even mean?
that means he's an East Coast guy.
I'm from the East
But
Coast.
oh yeah, so
Yes,
yeah, this is an awesome conversation. Two awesome smart people, but um, yeah, and I think that
I will not be
these devices that
defined
we have are cool. You will not be defined by.
by your projection of my no. Um, yeah, I think it's a very. What does that even mean?
So, how did you even get involved with Nelson?
Well, this is the story I love to tell.
And then Christopher, she's at the Canine Human Relationship
Relationship
Institute.
Institute, yeah.
Yep, CHR Institute.com down in
Yeah,
Dallas with
chrinstitute.com. Yep. Um, So Nelson was at a an adoption event for Texas Husky Rescue that my husband and I were also at with one of our dogs. So that's how I met him because he had like 10 dogs attached to him.
He always does.
And yeah, my dog went up
Okay.
to his dog and oh yeah, here okay, maybe I'll try to keep it, I'll tone it down.
No.
Nelson Nelson, let's just say Nelson rubbed me the wrong way in that first meeting. And I was like, I will never talk to this guy ever again, ever. And then I was doing canine assisted therapy, and I was like, I wonder what it's happening. I wonder what's happening for the dog in these therapy sessions with kids. Because I had some really interesting, reactions from my therapy dog, kids who maybe had done some things that were harmful. And my dog was reacting to the kids, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder what's happening." And so I reached out to him, and he was very generous,
Okay.
and agreed to meet with me to help me understand a little bit more about the canine's perspective. And then we continued talking, and now I'm instrumental. He probably could not survive this world without me. I'm quite sure he definitely emotionally needs me.
How do you feel dogs affect kids in the counseling environment and opening up and talking about traumas, talking about life in general? Or does it help them?
Well, so the trauma question is a specific because even if I do work with trauma, you remember when we talked about like what you focus on, you get more of, and so
Mm,
that they there's quite a few people that believe that recounting trauma is actually not therapeutic. So so when I'm with kids, and doing play therapy.
you guys got to meet. Do you know Christopher has some? Christopher is up in the East Coast, and he's got some pretty amazing videos of people
Oh,
coming
nice.
in and like him just showing the people the truth about the relationship with the dog.
Oh,
And he's got this
wow.
one video with this reactive German Shepherd, and he's like, "Let me show you weakness," and he goes back, and this German Shepherd's like, "Bah, bah, 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 bah," and then he steps forward, and the dog's like, "Whoa." And then the person's like, he's protecting me, and the dog's trying to sneak underneath the dude, and he's like, is this protecting you? That doesn't look like protecting you to me. And I
Yeah,
love the way that he talks to people, and sometimes, I
that's
mean,
awesome.
yeah, so I think that, I put a link up before, but I'll definitely send you a link, Chris. So sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to interrupt you.
Oh no, no. I think that's it, right? Is like it's one thing to be talented and work with the dog. It's another thing to be able to translate that so that the human can integrate whatever it is that you're teaching.
Hmm.
That's a gift. It's a gift. And it must certainly be strong with people from the East Coast because I think I have it too. So I have that
Well, I
gift.
think that that's exactly what's missing too, is that, not just that legislative task, but that follow through of like, look, this needs to happen, and you know, and many things. Namaste, namaste. I just went to yoga too, man. So,
That's right.
um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to get into work with that with dogs and therapy dogs and I just like the way that, but I can see the way that it makes people puts a mind into a different, more open space.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also see it being a distraction too.
Well, I think that they say, like, if we look at from just even like a biomedical perspective, I think like petting a dog or petting a cat, I think they say lowers your cortisol.
Yeah,
I don't know.
serotonin up your, or no, cortisol. Yeah,
It
it's
lowers your stress hormone. And so, which cortisol is, I think, secreted from the adrenals. So we do biomedical evaluations of kids who come for therapy or diagnostic evaluation, and so sometimes we do measure their cortisol levels and find that they're not able to sleep, they're in fight or flight, and so when you're in fight or flight and your cortisol levels are high, you're never going into rest and digest. And so it's sort of like a domino effect. So I think just if you only have a therapy dog and the main thing is just to bring down the level of arousal in that human being, then I think you've also really accomplished something, because it will have efficacy down the road. You know, just like they say, I think 20 minutes of massage lowers your cortisol levels for 6 weeks.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So petting a dog, petting a cat, and I had nonverbal kids too. I had a girl who was very, 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 very close to my therapy dog, and she didn't speak to me for 4 years. And you know, it was when we really introduced the dog to her play that she began connecting with me through language. So
Great.
yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful, and it's you know, sometimes it's just the calm presence of the dog taking a nap in the corner, you know. And sometimes it's about teaching respect and boundaries and empathy and social skills. And so there's so many different ways to incorporate whatever it is that we're trying to learn. We can, you know, they call the, what do they call that? Transitional object. So the dog becomes the transitional object. Um, yeah, there's a couple of great books out there that they're like this thick, but gosh, I think Nelson gave it back to me, but there's a couple of really good books. One of them is by Nancy Parrish Plass, and it's about animal assisted therapy or canine assisted therapy. It's really good. She
Cool.
talks a lot about it. It's so long.
Well, and then the horses too. I
Mm-hmm.
always had a fear of horses
Oh,
because they're so
really?
big. Yeah, they're so big and just daunting and like, whoa, this is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, and just hearing the hooves hit the ground, and I remember shaking the ground, like hearing the ground shake,
Oh,
and but once I got on one, you know, and started riding them around, it was very empowering, and it
yeah.
switches your role, and it kind of lets that kid practice being a leader.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because, I mean, they're prey animals. So they really need our protection. They really do. They need protection. I mean,
The horses,
certainly some of them, yeah.
yeah, they're not predators like a dog is, you know.
Right.
But
So I think, you know, it's important to just be mindful of that they are big and powerful, but I think the most danger comes when they're in fear.
mm,
I think
same
that's
with
when they're.
us. Same with
That's
us. You know
true.
what fear is called? Fear is called the mind killer.
Mm-hmm.
What I refer to it as, because when we're in fear, it puts us in fight or flight. It shuts out those other buffers of our brain that allow us contemplation, allow
Mm-hmm.
us to really, really get a thorough where we can merge the intellect with the emotion, and kind of toss it back between the right and left hemisphere and really, really contemplate something to get a firm perception of what is. And then together, our perceptions come together to form concepts. And so
Mm.
our percepts form concepts. And so we get a better understanding of the print or the plane of existence that we have incarnated into.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. And then knowing by
That's very
seeing
West
patterns,
Coast.
right? Yeah, there
That's
you
very
go.
West Coast.
That's for Chris. What's the opposite of fear?
Love.
What is the opposite of fear? Love.
Love.
I mean, love. I mean, love. Fear is. Do you would say love? Yeah, yeah. Love, compassion, empathy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you never learn while in fear. That's another thing that, you know.
Yes,
No.
that's.
So what is the opposite of fear? I want to hear this because Christopher, I
Mm.
definitely love his insight.
Okay, well, we'll
What
hear
is
what he
the
has to
opposite of
say.
fear? I mean, fear is the absence of love, right?
Well, I mean,
I mean,
so
fear would be
I've only heard
courage.
it the other way. I've heard what is the
Courage
opposite of
is,
love.
courage is feeling the fear and then doing it anyway, right?
Yeah, I think you can't have courage without fear.
Curiosity. What do you think of that?
I mean, I don't know.
It's a good freaking question. I got to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
You got to sit in this, and this is how the contemplation, and I would love to
Mm-hmm.
being content with what is neurotransmitter in fear. So the opposite of fear is hope. Here that we have hope, but then we also have certainty. And certainty can be better than fear. So I love it. I love this. What is the opposite of fear, right? And this is
Well,
what
the way that it's posed for me is when we say, what is the opposite of love? That so
fear pushes us back, curiosity pulls us forward. I freaking love that. Very
well,
awesome. Yeah.
I
Safety
think
is the opposite of fear.
yeah, you
Well,
have to have safety. It's like it's not that curiosity can just exist without
well,
safety, I think, to come
does safety
forward.
increase curiosity? Right? Does safety increase? I mean, you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and once that's met, does the curiosity go up? Right? Because now you're more content and you have things provided. Awareness, curiosity. So I think safety has some you know because then that safety can provide more of a buffer for that comfort zone to expand. We fear what
Yeah,
we don't know.
that that to me is there's a lot of underlying um, processes that are probably happening at the same time. You know,
Yeah,
I think it
it
seems
blossoms.
very yeah.
Curiosity blossoms, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what is blossoming too? That's the flower. When you're in the flow, you're a flower, whatever. That's so West Coast.
Yeah, that's very West Coast. Yeah.
Namaste. Contentment. It's more complicated than an opposite. Yeah. I mean, it's a polarity.
Yeah, yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
that
maybe it's a polarity. A knowledge replaces fear. I agree with that absolutely, and I believe that knowledge, and that's what raising your consciousness, and like con
see, I don't
science.
see those as the same thing. I really don't. I think one of them is information and the other one is like maybe a perception, you
Okay.
know? I think
Well,
there's
that's
more
why
there.
the percepts come together, and then that's where we come together and discuss our percepts to form concepts. And I'm hugging a tree while I type. Good. Sensory overload. That's what everybody. For me too. Like you can sit and contemplate this stuff, but
Yeah.
I think that
I will
it's
tell you one so, and of course like all of this it's going to be so up to each person to decide what resonates best for them. One thing that I find helpful in terms of like understanding negative emotion and giving yourself permission, that kind of thing. A lot of people operate from a place of guilt, and typically permissiveness follows guilt. But one of the things that I will tell to people that I'm working with is that some people have said, I'm not saying that this is the truth for everyone, but that guilt is one of the only wasted emotions or the only wasted emotion because it's not the same as remorse. And that some have said that it does not propel you to do things differently in the future, that it's more stagnant guilt. And so I think if we were to challenge, the usefulness of any of our emotions, I would say it's okay to feel guilt. I just wouldn't stay there. I wouldn't stay there. I would allow myself permission to move through it pretty quick because
well,
it doesn't. It's not a growth. It's not going to yield more growth. I think to stay in guilt.
I like that permissiveness follows guilt.
Yeah, that's not mine either. Unfortunately, none of these ideas are coming from
But
my
it
brain.
makes sense to me. It
Yeah.
makes sense to me. That, and a
Well,
lot
for
of
the
times,
dog trainers, for sure, because the problem with many people is they're letting their dog on the bed, they're letting their dog on the couch, they're letting them eat out of their hand or on their plate or just misbehave. And they're being overly permissive. And if you can isolate that, where is the guilt coming from, it can maybe be more impactful than challenging them on their permissiveness. Just say, well, it seems like you might be feeling guilty that they're locked up and you think that this is, they're in the kennel all day while you're at work, or you feel bad because they were abused by somebody
I hear that
else.
every so much. They must have been abused. They must have been, and they'll tell this story. This dog was a bait dog, or what?
Oh, there,
And I'm
yeah.
just like, yeah. But a lot of times I'm like, this dog was, and a lot of times it's just this tale, this story that becomes
Yes, listen to
emotionally.
this. Listen to this. This is one of the most beautiful quotes I've ever heard. This is from a girl that is at my yoga studio. She's a yoga teacher. And she says, starve the stories you feed yourself and nourish yourself with the truth.
Boom.
Yeah. The stories, we feed these stories. And then we make them real by practicing them over and over and over again.
And we become our stories. People become their
Yeah,
stories.
I think
That's what they
so.
say every single time. It becomes this like parroted, regurgitated, ritualistic kind of behavior that I see, a lot. And it's like, look, you're not
Hmm.
that, and I
Hmm.
didn't see you as that, but always constantly dragging this in, um, and defining yourself by that in a way that you actually stand. Uh, and take influence and let that reflect who
Right.
you are can be not a good thing.
Yeah, and remember what we said earlier, that what you focus on, you get more of.
Bill, my wife's telling me I
That's
don't let them in
right.
the bed. They get on the bed and I tell them to get off. So just,
we
but
have
whatever.
we have sometimes we have privileges, but
Yeah,
um
they have to be earned.
but yeah, so like if you go back to what we said at the very beginning, which is what you focus on you get more of, and you
Yes.
decide on a story for yourself or your dog or your spouse or whoever, you decide on that story and you focus on that, then yeah,
Mm.
you are really actually limiting the potential of that person in your mind. And so they lose what's called future mindedness. They lose the ability to be different in your eyes, or you lose your own ability to be different in your own eyes. Um, so
So how do we break that? How do we?
you decide to focus on what you do want. Decide to focus on what you want the story to be. So instead of focusing on trauma, for example, we focus on resilience.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like resilience, 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 resilience. People are
Ener-
like, "How do you do this work? It's so sad."
energy
And I'm like,
flows, right? Energy flows where focus goes.
"Mhm.
Energy flows where focus goes. If you choose to walk around being offended by things in life, guess what? You're going to find
A
things in life
lot."
to be offended about, right? But if you find
Yeah.
stuff to give you joy and love and give you that warmth in your heart, that's something that maybe we can flip the script in our own brain. And when we start to
Mhm.
see our patterns and recognizing those patterns, right, and
Mhm.
being aware and not getting down on ourselves, but just observing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, we said this also, is that if we are judging our own emotional experience, we're also willing to do that to others. And that's
Mm,
really not our place. What's that?
my gosh, because I'm doing that with myself. Like I'm going to professionals and I'm talking and I'm going in, like I'm getting into the nitty gritty of growing up, everything, and just like
Yeah.
let's get it all out.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it's going to allow me to because I'm giving that, it's going to allow me to take
Hmm.
from my clients and to help them. And Christopher says they have to give you permission to explore that guilt. The dog is a fantastic catalyst for permission. People let you help the dog, but you are truly healing both.
Yeah. It's definitely a relationship designed for healing. If it's allowed to do what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing
Well,
about feeling it is another little word, words to live by is
yeah.
feel it so you can free it. You've got to feel it before you can free it. So to
Feel
go
it.
back and explore those feelings is really worthwhile so that you can let it go, because to not do that sometimes just means that we're suppressing and hanging on, and they tell like that's your unconscious wish, which
Well, and us as men, we are not. I mean, it feels so foreign, and it
what?
feels to just like spill my heart out to somebody,
Oh.
and just be truthful about, and to be honest about how I feel about situations,
Mm,
and to be vulnerable
yeah.
is what it feels so foreign to be vulnerable. Like to
Yeah.
just open up and you just go to a certain point and they're just like, tell me more,
Yeah.
and you're like, all right, I'll
Well,
tell you a little bit more. And
the thing is that source where your vulnerability lies is also the source of all of your gifts. And so if you choose to never go there, you will never reach the source of the true gifts that were given to you to share with the world. So, I mean, I commend you. I admire that you have the willingness and obviously the emotional support of a great wife to, you know,
yes,
just be your partner and say, hey, like,
not masculine, feminine, human. Yeah. And that's what we are, man. We're all human, you know, and then that's our culture. Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. It's the supportive wife, but it's also, this is something that is, I mean, she supports me, but it's also something that she encourages me to do by myself, because I
yeah,
mean, we can do
it's
couples counseling, but it's also important for you as an individual,
right.
to know thyself.
The responsibility lies with the individual.
Well, the Oracle of Delphi. Let me tell you one of my favorite quotes. Okay, and you
Oh,
were
I
talking
think I
about.
know this already. It's
Okay,
Nothi.
don't ruin it.
Oh,
Don't
sorry.
ruin it. So, just kidding.
GNOTHISEA.
No, here we
Nothi
go. I gotta
Seaton.
let me see here. Heed these words. Okay, heed these words. Ye are you who wish to probe the depths of nature, and that's exactly what we're doing with the dogs and with the, we're working with nature here. If you
We're
do
doing
not
it
find
right
within,
now. We're doing it
we
right
are doing
now.
absolutely now.
Now we're
That's
doing
all it
it.
is. Now,
We're doing it
right
right this second.
now. Heed these words, you who wish to probe the depths of nature. If you do not find within yourself that which you seek, neither will you find it outside. If you ignore the wonders of your own house, how do you expect to find other wonders? In you is hidden
Oh,
the
wow.
treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and you
Yep.
will
No,
know the
that's not.
universe and the gods. And that's basic. I
Wow.
think that's the goal of life, is to know
Mm-hmm.
thyself, right? And so,
Yeah.
no one may walk the path for you. No one can, and no one will. Absolutely. And there's no
Mm-hmm.
way. You can't go over the path. You can't go under the path. You got to go
Mm-hmm.
through it. You got to walk
Mm-hmm.
it, and that's why we're here.
Christopher is a philosopher in
I
disguise.
love it. I love it, man. He needs to come out to the West Coast.
He doesn't need to go to the West Coast.
Yes, he does. He does. He
Ugh.
did. He's a ginger too, so ginger pride.
Oh, he's a
Uh,
ginger.
yeah, it's all white now, but um, I do appreciate him, and I appreciate the vulnerability that he has putting out the content that he does, and everybody else. And I
Yeah.
think that this is what needs to happen: is that we, need to embrace that vulnerability, um,
We can
and that,
choose to. It's okay to not sometimes.
yeah.
I mean, just giving permission to, there are times when it's adaptive and times when it's not.
You're right. Well, I mean, chaos order too. I mean, ebb and flow. There's lots of give and take. It's
I actually
some
say
at
that to
different
my
times.
clients. I ask them a lot of times in therapy, I say,
We can meet in the middle.
I say, like, do you want to unpack this? Do you want to spend some time going into this very vulnerable place? And I would like for them to decide yes or no, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with deciding not to sometimes. It's okay.
And if you know yourself truly, you cannot have an ego. So here's where I think about ego. Ego is a tool. Ego is a tool of separateness. If we were at a table and there was no such thing as ego, and we were all eating dinner, there would be nothing to stop me from taking a spoonful of food and putting it in Nelson's mouth or putting it in your mouth, right? Um, or if we were walking through the forest, there would be nothing to stop me and get me out of the way of a tree branch breaking, because that separateness would not be defined. We would know that we were part of that. The Yad He Vahe, the Tetragrammaton, the name of God, all that was, will be, and even to say it, to define it, is misnomer, because it encompasses all. And so, but what happens is that people allow that ego to rule their life, and it's like almost like a tool leading a construction site or something. It's just misplaced.
Yeah. And I think even so for me, because I dig into, and I think you do too, like word origin and root and things like that.
Absolutely.
And I mean,
Etymology,
yeah.
epistemology.
So, so yeah, we can talk about that another time. I don't, I don't typically use the word ego. It's founded in psychodynamic theory, I think.
I love it.
So I just,
Well, do you want
because
to do this again?
if you talk
Well,
about the ego, then you also have to talk about the id and the
yeah,
superego, and
right.
that's not my theory. I don't roll that way. So
Sigmund Freud.
that's right, and he's not my dad. So I'm like, ugh.
Daddy issues with the Freud man.
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes it just tends to over pathologize sometimes, but anywho,
Well,
so
and I want to do this because we've been doing this for a while, and I know you got to go, and I appreciate your time, because
oh,
this
it's
has been a
fun.
great conversation. Yeah,
Has
people
it?
don't realize, Chris. I think so. Have you guys liked the conversation?
I know I
You
can
know.
only see a few comments. I don't think I can see everybody.
Oh, you can see they're on there. You can go onto Facebook too. How many
Oh,
people are viewing it live right now? We
I
got
can't.
15 live viewers right now. But I think that we should do this again. I want to talk about root origin, but I think that we really hit on some stuff, especially with that, just the permissiveness and the guilt. I see that excellent conversation. See, I see that as a pearl,
I
that
like it.
you
Yeah,
know.
I didn't make that up either. All this stuff is somebody else's. I
Well, that's
just
my main takeaway. I mean, I've had a lot of takeaways, but
okay.
just hearing you say that, because I see that, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely something we can observe in every single, significant relationship. Even when somebody, is passive aggressive and they're trying to evoke guilt or shame in you and or me, and
They're
that's
a
a
travel agent for a guilt trip. That's what I told them.
yeah, and that's not helpful. That's not
No,
helpful. Yeah,
I mean it's manipulated. And I want to talk also, when we talk again, I want to talk about narcissism. I want to talk about, manipulation, borderline behavior, like all that stuff. What do you
mm-hmm.
think?
Yeah, we can. I mean, I wouldn't say it's my specialty because I think it's all rooted in attachment and
You're going to be speaking at the conference next year.
yeah, so I heard, but I actually don't think that's a good idea.
Down in Florida, be at St. Pete Beach.
Yeah, I don't. I think I'm not qualified to be doing that talk. So
You are. You're fine. You'll be good.
mm,
I'll be
I think
there.
it's
I'll be there,
well.
and Nelson and I will be there, razzing you out in the. We'll be heckling you out in the crowd.
Well, that goes without saying. That goes without saying, really. Yeah.
First time I've ever watched a 1.5 hour live stream. So
Oh,
Valerie
because
was there.
you, Val, you're a learning
Yep,
machine and you're a contributor too. So
that's right.
Val is always up for good conversation and she's brilliant as well.
And share this. This, I think we covered a lot of stuff, a lot of pearls that people can take, especially in the dog world. And just talking about, like, we just need to talk about this stuff. especially the
Yeah.
overwhelm and the burnout, and being okay with being bored, and self-care, love
Yeah.
yourself, pamper yourself. It's important, you know.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed a role that kind of is only started small, but being available for consultation for dog trainers who are struggling with the human piece.
Okay.
And I've actually really enjoyed, because I have, those like what you call the pearl, like those little
Yeah.
words to live
Pearls of
by.
knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, those are
Pearls of
basically just
wisdom.
rationale. It just gives you the rationale for why you would handle this way, or why you would handle this way. And they're very easy to remember, and they're very easy to employ. And so if anybody was ever interested in consultation, just reach out, probably through the website chrinstitute.com.
Okay. Do you have an email
I
that
do. I
what's your email?
do.
Let's do
Well, do
that.
you
Put
want
that in
the
the comment.
I don't actually know my email for the institute.
In my life, it's not the dog, it's you. Yes, that's it. Christopher says that my business, where the customer is always wrong. When they bring in their dog, they're just like, yep.
Yeah, I pretty much think that about parents often, It's not the
Yeah.
kid. That's why I think that it works so well to talk about, the relationship that humans have with their dogs, because it's not so different than the parent-child relationship, and that's my specialty. So it's a real easy transfer from
Oh,
like
people are
this
already
to
putting this
that.
up.
Oh, thank you. Thanks,
Yeah.
Val.
Thank you, Val.
I was like, I don't really know.
Christine at K. No, wait,
It's
KRN. Yeah, that's it.
it's
I don't know.
Christine at CHR Institute, and I told Nelson that my secret plan is that we named it this CHR
Yeah.
Institute because I was starting to spell my name.
Well, look, he put it there too.
That's right. That's
He's
right.
falling for
That's
it.
right. It'll
Taking
be
it over.
all the way. It'll be soon my
You
whole
got to do it
name.
like this. This is a power position.
Yes, from last
Right.
year.
Yeah, totally.
The steeple, right? Steeple. How about
Right.
this?
That's right.
Oh
And remember,
yeah.
dude, I got a steeple going up over back here, just so you
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh,
So
I'm
you
so
know.
powerful.
That's
I'm
right,
an
my crown.
influencer.
That's right. I
All
just
right,
watched
Bill.
an Instagram influencer crying
Oh.
um, for losing all of her followers, and
Oh.
it was interesting to see, this influence culture too. We can talk about that. Christine in Newt or whatever.
Yes, that's right.
Christine.
Kristen Toot. The Christine Institute.
Thank you for joining us, Christopher. I enjoy what I see
Yeah,
from you
thanks,
all the time
Christopher.
now. And thank you for what you do, helping people see the proper relationship with the dog. And I mean, Chris used to see some of the bites and stuff that his guys had.
Oh
So I
gosh.
would love to have you back on again, Christopher, anytime, man. Anytime. So,
All right.
Christine, I'm going to, I'll let you go here, that then I'm going to call you really quick just
Oh,
to chat with you and say,
okay. Say, don't
good
do that again. Don't say that. Try
night.
to get the dogs under control next time. That kind of stuff.
This was awesome. Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
everybody, for joining us.
Yeah,
And hit that share button. Let's get this
that's
share
right.
far and wide wherever people are doing, good work with dogs, or
That's right.
in the animal industry, or in the service industry overall.
Yes.
So,
And
and
thank
Chris,
you also to you, Bill, and to Nelson and the others from the Institute. But, a shout out to Nelson because he has really been a huge blessing in my life and my family. And so I just want to make sure that that's acknowledged,
absolutely.
because,
I shout
he's
out.
got, sometimes he has some insecurities. So I want to make sure that he feels appreciated. And
This is for Nelson.
that's
Right
right.
there.
Viva la raza. All right. I'll see you soon. I'll talk to you in just a bit.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everybody,
All right.
for joining us. See you next time.
Yep.
And Nelson says, hold on. Nelson says, make sure you block me next time so I don't know about it. You got it, buddy. I'm not going to ever block him.
Oh.
All right. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Good night.